Hey there, and welcome to this episode of Dev Chats. My name is Matt Ling. I'm a developer advocate based in Ireland. And I'm really thrilled to be joined by Jonathan Steele today. Yeah, how's it going, John?
Hey Matt, it's great to be here. How's it going?
Good, really, really good. So I used to work on the same team as Jonathan. And do you want to maybe give us a bit of an idea about what y'all do on that team?
Sure, yeah. So I work on the technical solutions engineering team at Stripe. I
Mhm.
joined last April, based remotely in the UK, and our team helps developers integrate with Stripe through a variety of channels, including our Discord server. But I also work very closely with the checkout and payment links teams,
Mhm.
which is kind of why I'm here today to kind of share some of the awesome new stuff that's shipped across those products.
That's pretty cool. So you get to kind of get to play with all the cool toys that they're working on. You get like early access.
Yeah, I get to try out the new products, kind of give the team feedback, relay feedback directly from users for what they're
Hmm.
asking for, what are
Yeah,
some pain points with those products.
yeah.
And it's really valuable not only for the team itself, but
Hmm.
me and like the Stripe merchants who
Yeah,
ultimately benefit by a much better checkout and payment links product.
yeah, absolutely. And like as a developer advocate, I can certainly say that if you are using checkout or payment links, certainly we want to hear from you. If you're developing and you're using these products, you can reach out to us on any of our channels and all of our channels if you want. This is where you can jump into our Discord server. It's at stripe.com/go/developer chat. That will just link you directly into our server. You can join in the conversation there, and there's like Stripe engineers like Jonathan on hand to answer your questions and help with your integrations. But also, if you can find us on Twitter at StripeDev, and you can see Jonathan and my handles for Twitter there. I should put an at there. I just realized. Yeah. So, so maybe this actually is the first. Just I should mention in a series of checkout related live streams, which are starting today, and then we'll be going through all through September. So we highly recommend jumping onto our YouTube channel where you might be now, and getting reminders, setting reminders for all of those streams, because they're going to be really, really interesting, really, really insightful, and are being hosted by some really great people. So really, I definitely highly recommend going and checking those out.
Some great guests, right, on some of those streams.
Yeah,
Be some really good insights and valuable kind of context from not only people who work at Stripe, but people who use Stripe as well. So if
for
you're
sure.
interested in Stripe, check out payment links or just payments in general. These streams will be really valuable and interesting. So I'll be
Yeah.
watching them for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe we could just kind of well, I'm gonna show generally speaking, when new features come out, Jonathan and I and Paul Ashes, who's based out of Amsterdam, we maintain this. I'm gonna throw this up onto the screen. Screen. We
Do it.
maintain a list of demos called Tiny Demos. So you can find them at stripe-tinydemos.glitch.me. And these are really great. So what you can do is on Glitch, you can jump into any of these demos. You can actually make a full copy of that demo with one click of a link or a button, paste in your Stripe API keys, and you're off to the races. You'll have a fully working integration, which you can play with, change, experiment with. And so, yeah, we highly recommend checking some of these out. There's like 50 odd integrations that you can play with, make copies of them on your own. And yeah, so just wanted to highlight that is available for you at stripe-tinydemos.glitch.me. All
I
right.
think the value, yeah, and the value in the tiny demos is that they're all kind of so isolated and they just highlight one particular feature about a
Exactly.
product, whether that's checkout or payment element
Hmm.
or payment links.
Yep.
And they're really valuable because, like, especially on Discord, if you're helping somebody to understand a concept or a feature, you can just kind of quickly share them a like a working integration, which is what the tiny demo is, rather than just here's the API reference, here's the documentation.
Right.
Yeah, so they're infinitely valuable, and that's kind of why I try and help contribute to these at any
Yeah.
opportunity, really.
Yeah, no, it's really, really helpful. I would also suggest just for testing a really, really interesting integration to try out the Stripe identity verification in a modal. It's really impressive. You can take a picture of your driver's license, and it will in in a test mode, kind of give you the feel of what it's like to use Stripe Identity. It's a really cool integration, just one that kind of popped out as I was just looking at the screen. But yeah, cool. Thanks for contributing so many as well. I'm going to remove that. Yeah. So how about if you want to give us kind of an overview, just a general overview of what you're going to cover today?
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing I've learned whilst been working with the checkout and payment link teams is the kind of velocity that they ship at.
Yeah.
And this kind of stream is a testament to that, because like I'm going to show off maybe 3 to 4 new features that I've shipped within the past 5 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And these are all like really big features, really valuable featers customers
Sure.
have been asking for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only scratches the surface. There's a whole other bunch of stuff I could talk about. We don't have all day, so
are we committing ourselves to another stream in a couple of weeks or a month or so?
Right, I think at the kind of speed at which these teams work, like I think they could come back next week and have some fresh content for you. But yeah, we should definitely make this maybe like quarterly or something. Would be really good.
Yeah, I'd love to actually. Yeah. So you're saying, okay, around 6 weeks in the last 6 weeks, like the majority or the features that you're going to be presenting here were just in the last shipped in the last 6, right?
Yeah, I'd say definitely since like early July, all of these features have kind of become public. So we're going to be looking at like presenting local currencies with checkout. We're going to be looking at pricing table. We're going to be looking at custom amounts with payment links, and also starting free trials without actually collecting payment methods with checkout. Previously, that's kind of possible if you're doing your own subscription integration with Elements, but you couldn't do that previously without checkout. So that's something that's new and is like really exciting for merchants.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see all this stuff. So where does the story start? Is it like with prices or?
Yeah, for sure. I think a good place to start would be kind of presenting local currencies. So I think this solves kind of a big ask, and that's kind of as merchants grow with Stripe and their business grows and starts to expand internationally, they find themselves wanting to actually sell to their customers in their currency of their locale. So take a particular example, like myself, if I was a merchant in the UK, I'd probably be selling in GBP. But as my internet business grows, I find myself selling to merchants in Europe, in the EU zone, in the US, Canada. And I want to be able to kind of quickly be able to scale my kind of product catalog to be able to sell to them in their native currencies. Previously, you had to like maintain all that separate prices, figure out where your customer lived or where your customer was from, and then pass the relevant price ID at the checkout session. But now, kind of thanks to some new API work on the price object, this currency options hash here, we can checkout can actually now surface the presentment currency that's better reflects your customer's location.
Okay. Yeah, that's really important. I mean, because I used to live in Berlin, and I shopped on Amazon DE all the time, and now that I'm in Ireland, like it's all in euros, and I know it's it's kind of the very same experience. Whereas if I shop on Amazon Co UK, I always have to like think about, okay, well, I'm GBP and what exchange rate am I paying, and like okay, well, there's a little bit more work there for me, and I feel a little bit like, okay, less likely to purchase things on the Co UK side because the experience is more familiar to me and in euros on the German side.
Yeah, I think the problem's twofold, and especially for that impacts both customers and yourselves. So like you're likely to see a much higher increase conversion payments if you can present in a currency that the customer is more familiar with. And equally, it's less frustrating for the customer because they're less likely to be subject to kind of FX fees by their banks or an international kind of transactional fee, which some banks still kind of impose. So it's definitely a win-win for both Stripe merchants and those customers of those Stripe merchants.
Certainly, like I think that there is a higher rate of cart abandonment, checkout abandonment if a customer doesn't see like a currency that they want to purchase in, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like there's studies done about all of this. You can kind of look it all up. And this is kind of, as I said earlier, it's been a pain point for Stripe merchants for a while, and we're doing a lot of work to kind of improve that kind
Hmm.
of experience for their customers. And
Nice.
this is just the tip of the iceberg, really.
Okay. Brilliant. Yeah, cool. And so I see you've got some products set up here. Look, you're jumping into the coffee side hustle, I see.
Always about the coffee. Everything's coffee, man. Especially when you got two children. Yeah, so this is kind of some homework I did earlier. We're going to kind of run through a little example as a user persona if I was a coffee merchant. So I've created like a small product catalog. This is all very familiar if you're used to kind of using Stripe in the dashboard. We have a product. A product can have multiple prices that might reflect the kind of recurring nature of them and the intervals, or whether they're a one-time price. But what's particularly interesting is now when in the dashboard, I can create a new price that actually has multiple currency options. So at
Okay.
the moment, these prices here right now are only available in GBP. That
Okay.
means regardless of where you are in the world, if I create a checkout session with this price ID here,
Yeah.
you will have to transact in GBP, regardless of where you are. So we don't want that. We want to kind of leverage this local presentment currency, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new price that's going to kind of mirror this pre-existing one-off price for this bag of whole bean coffee. So it's £10 per unit. You can see here that the default currency is GBP. There are no other currency options on this right now, but let's change that. Normally, you could just edit this price. The prices in Stripe are immutable once they've kind of been a part of a checkout session. So in this particular case, because we've been using this price, we're going to have to create a new one.
Mm-hmm.
So just dive back into the dashboard here. I'm going to click add new price, and the model looks very familiar, right? You've got the price box here. You kind of determine your pricing model, whether it's recurring or one time.
Okay.
So we'll just go ahead and configure this to mirror what we have. It's £10 one off. And again, this is still in GBP. So this value here and this value here denotes the kind of default currency options on this price object.
Okay.
What's important is that we've got the add currencies here. So this now allows us to kind of offer currency options for this price object in like pretty much every presentment currency that Stripe supports. So as you can see, the list is very extensive.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of offer probably two of the most popular currencies in the world, the US dollar and the euro. So what you'll see is that the dashboard will automatically pre-populate values here that are based on like the exchange rate as of right now. So that's reflective of like now. It's important to note that these prices won't automatically change. So you will need to manage that yourself and just be mindful of that. If the pound gets stronger, if that ever happens again, I don't know. But it'd be, yeah.
Well, I noticed
so
that the USD or euro is 1-to-1 right now. So,
right, pretty much, yeah. So yeah, let's just go ahead and kind of manually manage these. I'm just going to round them up because of my OCD. So we got one-time price here with a GBP of £10, USD for $12, euro 12 as well. It's one time. What's important is we want to set this as the default price. So that means when I retrieve this product from the API, there's a default price. Show you this in the API. There's a default price field.
Okay.
Which is the ID that will map to that. So we're actually using that in our integration. So it's important for me that I'm going to kind of set that there.
Okay.
Click add price. And we've got the price here, our new £10 default. I can now archive the old one-time price because I don't need that anymore.
Okay.
So if we look on here, we'll see we still have a default pricing in GBP for £10 and then the currency options beneath.
Okay.
So now we can actually kind of go into this little Next.js app that I've thrown together. So this is pulling data from our Stripe account, pulling the product pricing data. This is the product that we've just created.
Okay.
So if I go ahead and just kind of create a checkout session, what we'd expect to see is obviously the £10 because that was the default price, right? And I am also located in the UK, so it's servicing the £10 for me. Now, the way that checkout does that is it's kind of geolocating you based on the IP address of the session. So Stripe's kind of detected that I'm in the UK. This customer will likely want to transact in pounds. That's right. How can we test those other currencies that we added? And that's a pretty cool way of doing that in test mode.
Okay.
Jump to the docs here. So you can kind of append the, you can pass the customer email parameter when you're creating your checkout session and append the value to kind of add this location underscore XX string. So that will be a 2-letter country code that reflects a country that will be covered by your currencies. So in our case of adding euros and dollars, we kind of want to use US or IE or FR or D or something like that.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and try it. So if I prefix this, let's try IE, where we should then see euros, right?
Yep.
There we go.
Cool. Okay.
So the euros net value now reflects the currency option on the price that we just created.
Awesome. So this is what I will see if I'm buying your coffee.
Exactly. So if you were on my website, you clicked, hey, this coffee looks beautiful. I'm going to buy some of these beans, try them out. If I click the session, checkout would know that you are in Ireland and would say, Matt likely wants to transact in euros. Let's surface euros to him rather than GBP.
Okay. And what would happen, for example, if an Australian, you haven't put in, Aussie dollars on your price? What would happen if the user then wants to check out?
Yeah. So for locales where there is no direct mapping to a currency option, so for example, Australia, we don't have an Australian dollar option. So what would happen is, well, we can see what would happen. Location EU, we're passing that here. So checkout is going to think that I'm currently in Australia, if only. Okay. What will happen is it'll just fall back to the default currency on that price, which in this case is pounds.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, cool.
So there may be instances like, there may be an instance where you want to force. So as I said, like that works in test mode, right? You want to test that. You can't do that in live mode. You can't pass the custom email param with a location string. That won't work. But in some instances in live mode, you might want to offer a checkout session to a customer in a different currency based on their current locale. So for example, I could be on vacation right in the US, but so checkout thinks I'm in US, thinks I want to see US dollars. In reality, I probably want to see GBP. You can pass the currency parameter here, specifying the currency that you actually want to surface. And checkout will surface that for you. So yeah, that's like, I think it's a really great feature that's helping Stripe merchants present and transact in more locales that their customers are in today.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, like, just to recap, that will definitely, like, it'll increase conversions, which will increase revenue, and it's a fairly low lift. You just need to configure those prices or those currencies for each price. And like, yeah, that's really, really useful. Awesome.
So we demonstrated that. Obviously, we demonstrated that in the dashboard, but as I said, it's also available via the API and this kind of currency options array here.
Okay.
So it's available in the API, it's available in the dashboard. There's absolutely no reason really to not to use this. The kind of buy-in's pretty low, and checkout, if you're using checkout especially, then you're going to kind of get some value instantly from that.
Okay, great. Really cool. Really, really cool. Yeah, so what's next?
What's next? I think next we should look at probably the most recent launch of what I'm covering today. Probably the one that got like a really, really great reception, especially on Twitter from a lot of Stripe merchants who are doing kind of who build or kind of own SaaS businesses, and that's Pricing Table. So the kind of TLDR is that Pricing Table is kind of a no-code or low-code way to create an embeddable pricing UI for your site that kind of mirrors your Stripe product and pricing catalog. So previously, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna comment that, like, yeah, like if you're building this on your own for like a SaaS business, that's kind of a fairly, involved integration, right? Or a piece of code, because you've got to like think about well, you know, all of the different ways that people can buy things, all the different products, trying to like highlight certain things. And yeah, so this is really great that you just out of the box with a very low code solution get this for free nearly.
Yeah, having kind of worked on these kind of things in the past, pricing tables are a pain. There's so much information there. You kind of got to get a good UX, right? Because you want it to convert well.
Right.
So kind of building that yourself making it look nice, presenting all the information, which could be coming from like various APIs, and then also kind of hooking the button to actually buy up to, in this case, a checkout session. In reality, you could kind of just use the pricing table from Stripe to actually embed with a web component. So like, you create this pricing table in the dashboard, we give you the code to embed it, and yeah. So I mean, we could just dive in and try it out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So pricing table is it's dashboard only right now. There's no API to kind of create or manage them. So in the dashboard under the product umbrella, we have the pricing table section. So what we can do is we can actually create quite a complex matrix of kind of pricing and product options for our pricing option. And as we add these products, you're going to see the preview on the right kind of adapt to what's available. So it will surface kind of various intervals of prices, a one-off price, different products. Yeah, so I guess we have some coffee products where we have some recurring prices and one-off prices. So in reality, we could kind of add them all.
Cool. So you can mix like one-off with recurring.
Exactly, and the UI kind of automatically handles that, and you'll see as we start clicking in these now.
Super cool.
So I've added the first price there. First product, sorry, the Ethiopian roast. That's our one-off price. So I'm going to go ahead and add our recurring prices.
Okay.
And you can see we've got this like tabbed UI now.
Okay.
And then, so we've got another couple of products that we can add. Currently, it's a max of 4. Just as well, we only sell 3 roasts. Yeah, and as you can see, don't want to add a new price. As you can see now, there's 2 products under every kind of interval.
Okay.
So this, as I'm kind of clicking and adding these and seeing this kind of populate already, I can already see like all of the JavaScript I'd have to write to create this myself.
Right.
So I'm already saving myself like days worth of work. Yeah. So there we go. That's what our pricing table would look like.
Okay.
Then you got some kind of like standard configuration options that are very similar to the kind of customization that exists on checkout, right? You can change the background color to match your page.
Cool.
The kind of accent color or the button color reflected on the tabs and the buttons there. A font as well. We pull in some fonts from, I believe, these are Google fonts. Button shape, again, that's an option available in checkout sessions. You can kind of customize that to fit what your UI looks like in your website. Pretty awesome. And this is kind of my like perfect, my favorite little touch of pricing table. It's the kind of highlight feature. So it's, you'll see with pricing tables on kind of SaaS products or subscription products, anything like that, they want to highlight the product that they want to draw you to, right? Whether that's the most expensive one or the one with the kind of highest, the one they make the most money on.
Right.
So we can decide which one we want to highlight and why. So in this particular case, I want to highlight the Ethiopian roast because it's the most expensive. And we're going to say, hey, we recommend this one. This is the nicest bean that we roast. You should definitely try out the Ethiopian roast. So we get this nice shiny badge here. The pricing table also kind of highlights that particular option. And that's carried across every interval as well.
Yeah. We'll just pause for a sec. There's a question in from Ivan. Hi, Ivan. I think the question is will these prices work with Stripe tax?
Is that pertinent to the pricing table, or is that pertinent to localized prices?
I think I would presume it's both, but the answer is I think yes, because prices and and ergo the pricing table, supports Stripe tax. And I believe you have to also supply the same currency options for your tax configuration in order to use that. So I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, this is kind of called out. If this is pertaining to like multi-currency prices, this is called out here. You need to ensure that like all of your currency options have a tax behavior set, which is this part of the API. So they need to have an inclusive or exclusive behavior set, otherwise they won't be able to work in a Stripe tax session. So I believe that would actually kind of result in a hard error when you were creating the session. If you wanted a particular currency and that currency option didn't have a tax behavior set and Stripe tax was set. In regards to the pricing table, the same applies, because ultimately the pricing table is just going to create a checkout session for us. And as long as we enable checkout Stripe tax on the next step here, as you can see, I don't have Stripe tax enabled on this particular account, but we can just kind of configure it on a per price basis to say, yes, I want to collect Stripe tax. And the resultant checkout session will reflect that. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah, so we've kind of wrapped up the kind of pricing configuration and the display of it. Now this is the payment settings and the confirmation settings for ultimately what the checkout session is. So these are all options that the pricing table will pass to the checkout session for us. We can enable promotional codes. We can allow the customer to adjust quantity. We can collect addresses, because obviously if we're shipping coffee beans, that would be important. So I want to ship to United Kingdom. I want to allow promotional codes. We may want to collect phone numbers. Not particularly interested in that. Yeah, and what you'll need to do is you'll actually need to configure that currently across each price and product separately. I think that's something that we're looking to improve upon. It's some feedback we've heard from kind of early adopters of pricing table, that they want to be able to kind of quickly copy this configuration onto this price and this price and other products as well, rather than having to kind of go through methodically and make sure they all match up.
Makes sense, yeah.
In this particular case, we're just going to kind of create this as it is. Confirmation page here. Again, this is previewable. We can have a default one. We can kind of customize the message. Or we can send them to an external website, back to your website where they kind of originally came from. We'll just stick with the default for this. And I'm just going to click create here, so we can actually get to the fun part of embedding this in our Next.js app. So once I've created that, we're now on the pricing table dashboard page. We've got our code embed. You can see it's a web component, which might look unfamiliar to some, but it's pretty cool what it does. We also have the kind of pricing table JavaScript embed from our CDN, which we need. So we're just going to copy that. I'm going to quickly dive into my page I made earlier. As I said, this is a Next.js app, so I'm just going to make a couple of quick adjustments and use the script component from Next.js. I'm also going to, because I'm a sucker for best practices, we're just going to use our environment variable. Making sure I'm not spelling any typos. You'll notice as well as if you're using TypeScript that this TypeScript will complain because it cannot find a type for that essentially on JSX. So there's a little snippet we can add that will fix that for us. Yeah, that resolves that issue. So the only parameters that we need is this for the web component is our pricing table ID, which we just created in the dashboard, our publisher key, and of course, making sure that we're embedding the JavaScript from the CDN. So I'll save this page, go back to our app now. And if I hit this root, we should have a lovely pricing table. Now the layout is a little different, but that's because of my CSS. So I'll just kind of manipulate that. It's up here. I'm going to disable this max width. There we go. There we go. So the pricing table now exactly mirrors what we kind of previewed in the dashboard there. I can click through these tabs. I've got options for each product across each interval that we offer them. Yeah, and this probably the most impressive part about this, at least it was for me when I first used pricing table, was the kind of speed of how fast it creates the checkout session. And it's pretty impressive. So I'm going to click this, and hopefully this comes across well on the stream. Every 3 months.
Okay.
Look, it's almost instant that the kind of redirect to checkout happens.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, anecdotally, that certainly seems a lot faster than, going to the
Right.
server, creating a checkout session and kind of figuring out all the parameters that you'd like to actually configure for that checkout session. And then, well, I guess you can redirect from the server now. Back in the day, we would probably get the session ID back and then redirect to checkout. So that seems way faster.
Exactly. And I'm not sure on the specifics of the technicalities of what enables that, but I understand that it's basically like the benefit of using a web component is that we can kind of, because you kind of need a server environment in order to use pricing table. You can't just put it in a static HTML page. You need a server running in order for it to work. And I believe the web component is essentially kind of the glue that makes that checkout session creation feel like immediate.
Wow.
But it's really nice. So that's like, that took us what, 5 minutes to configure that.
Right. And what if you wanted to update a product on the pricing table? Like, are they mutable or?
Pricing table is mutable. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically I can go in here, say I actually now don't want to offer the one-time prices. So I'm just going to remove these. So now we just have our recurring prices on there.
Cool.
Just click update. Oh, it'll save those changes. Now, because we have this ID, and because we already have that pre-configured and we're using the web component, all instances of this web component will now update without me having to change anything in my own code. So I refresh this page. What we should see is the one-time tab vanish and the 3 products still exist.
Yep. And this is like a big deal because think about like the amount of code you don't have to write to write an integration test for this, right? You don't have to have fixtures that ramp up all of your product data. And then, all of the unit testing as well that might kind of happen around that.
Right.
So you just drop this component in, you can update it from the dashboard. You don't need to change, test, or redeploy your code. It's just instant.
Yeah, it's so impressive. Like a lot of people who I've spoken to, both who work at Stripe and both merchants who are using Stripe, have been super impressed with pricing table. And I think it definitely resonates a lot with kind of the entrepreneurial spirit of the internet right now, right? Like a lot of people are kind of building their own thing, looking to get started. And this is like really the quickest way to kind of get started with your own SaaS business, right? So I think CJ, our friend CJ, had a tweet where it was like, he did like a SaaS in a tweet, right? Where it was like a payment with no code customer portal. I think this is in the same realm as that, with like the no code, low code kind of movement. Definitely helps people kind of get up and running way faster than previous.
And I think one of the great benefits of using this tools like this is that you get all of the improvements over time for free, right? It's just without deploying code or having to change things. It's just they just arrive.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you noticed earlier, but there's a call out at the top of the pricing table kind of page here. We're already working on some new features for the pricing table, custom call to actions for your buttons, tiered pricing as well. I think, it's like you said, I can just embed that component. I get all this stuff for free. It's a no-brainer for me, and it already works like with local currencies. We just demonstrated that will work with pricing table as well.
Okay,
it's pretty cool.
And another question from Ivan here. So, is it possible to create the pricing table via the API? And I believe you I know the answer, but go ahead.
Yeah, so right now the pricing table is not exposed via the API. It's a dashboard only feature. So you have to kind of create and manage those in the dashboard. Yeah.
Okay, good question. Yeah, that's super cool. I can't wait to try that out. Have you built it? I think you've already built a tiny demo for that, so that's off the table for me.
Yeah, it's already there, man.
All right, I'll give it a spin anyway, no matter what. Yeah, really cool.
I think
So
sorry, there's one feature that I totally forgot to cover on pricing table, and that's the product feature list. Let me quickly cover this. So there is a new UI element in the product UI. This is not exposed currently via the API, but it's this feature list here. And we can kind of just say this. Enter didn't do what I expected. 1 second. So this is dashboard only, but what you'll see is that it actually is then reflected on our pricing table. You can't see it down there, but let me pull it up. So for our Ethiopian roast, like you can also add features. So you know what's common on like a SaaS product page, right? Each plan has its own feature list.
right.
The pricing table supports that through the product itself. So if your products have features on, which again is dashboard only, but the pricing table will kind of pull those in and display those for you.
Yeah,
there's so much cool stuff like with pricing table. I probably haven't even scratched the surface. Yeah, but as I said, there's a lot of new stuff that they're working on. So keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so I guess we'll just come back in a month or two and talk about those too. Nice. Thanks for that. That's awesome. So I guess we should push on. We're 36 minutes in. I think we can push on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so another one, and this is probably the oldest feature. I say old, like it shipped in July. Like again, this is just a testament of like how quickly these teams are shipping amazing features. But yeah, for checkout and payment links, one thing we heard often from merchants was, I want to be able to accept custom amounts, particularly for like donations or tips, or just kind of figuring out what people thought your service or product was worth, right? And the way you had to do that previously was via what we call ad hoc prices. So you create the price, you create your checkout session, and you pass like a ad hoc price field.
Okay.
Via
the
price data.
So the user would like give you some value, and you would pass that through as an ad hoc price in the price data.
Exactly. So, but that would mean that you would have to like essentially capture those values somewhere else on your own site, which you would then pass to Stripe to create on the checkout session. So it's just kind of more work for the user, for the merchant. And it just meant that there wasn't like the best user experience. So yeah, we decided to build custom amounts. Again, this is surfaced on the price object via the custom unit amount hash here. So this feature is unlocked by the prices API, but checkout and payment links do a great job at like making the UX for it really super smooth. So yeah, I mean, again, we can probably just jump in. This feature is possible via the API, as I said, because you can just kind of create a price object that reflects a custom unit amount, and then use that resultant price in the API when you're creating your checkout session or you're creating your payment link. We'll just quickly demonstrate it in the dashboard because it has a nice new UI for creating custom amount payment links.
Okay.
So you'll see here in the top, this is the new part here. We have this like select button. Normally, you would have this button where it's like, okay, I'm creating a payment link for this specific product, which has like a predetermined price, whether it's one of our coffee, whether it's one of our coffee beans or something else. There's a new option now where we can essentially say, I want to create a payment link that allows the customer to input the amount they want to pay me.
Right.
So we're going to go ahead and select that. And all of a sudden you can see the field and UI here update. So we're going to create a payment link that's going to be to accept tips for all the awesome work me and you've done for this stream.
Yep. Shout out to Alessandro. Hey, joining us from the Philippines. Or no, Alejandro, sorry, my bad. Great to have you on the stream.
That's great to hear. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so we are going to kind of set up this payment link. It's going to be to accept tips for this great stream and all our other streams. But we're going to see what you guys actually think the value is, because you may send us nothing or you may send us everything. So
okay.
yeah, so
we're just going to set the lower limit is like way too high, right? I mean, that's obviously
exactly.
the solution to
just
this.
make the range like £1, like £99 or £100, right? So yeah, what we're essentially configuring here is that price object. So we're determining the currency. We can suggest a preset amount. So in this particular case, I'm going to say £5. And we can also set upper and lower limits.
Okay.
And these are reflective of the kind of currency transactional limits imposed across Stripe. So for example, that is 30 pence for GBP. So I'm going to set the minimum as £1 and the max at 100. So that's kind of configuring the options for the payment, for the price on the payment link. Some extra options down here that are pretty interesting as well. If your use case permitted, you can obviously collect billing and shipping addresses if that's required. In this particular case, we don't need those because we're just accepting tips. And as well, this is an interesting one that's pretty nice, that I can change the call to action kind of language on the payment link to reflect what the purpose of the payment link is. So if this is for like donations or for a charitable event, then I can set that to be donate. If it's for like booking time, so one use case that we hear is like, I want a payment link for somebody to book an hour of my consultation time. And it's like a variable amount. You can say it's between 100 to 150 pounds, something like that. That would, the book kind of denotes that you're booking somebody's time there.
Okay.
But in this case, we'll just keep it as pay.
Okay, really cool.
All right, so that's pretty much all we need to configure. Again, we can customize the confirmation page if we want, but we'll just keep it with the default for now. We're going to go ahead and create this payment link. We've got our payment link now. You can see that all the options here, the product is reflected down below. The payment link actually, in this case, created the product for us because we said we actually want to create a custom amount payment link. So we've got this product here. So as I said earlier, if you wanted to, you can use this price ID via the API, either with checkout session or with payment link. You can use that price ID and just pass it as a line item, and that will also create a custom amount payment link. Yeah, but let's go ahead and let's just see what it looks like on the actual page.
Will that payment link URL change depending on the kind of like the use case, whether it's like book or donate, or?
That's a really good call out. Yeah. Yes, it will. So let's have a look quickly. You'll see right now it's buy.stripe followed by like a UID essentially. If we change this call to action to say, let's say donate, I'm going to update this. You'll notice that the kind of subdomain updates there to reflect that, which is a really nice touch. And it kind of really resonates with the intent and purpose of the link. So that's cool.
A couple of questions coming in.
Okay.
Sorry to jump in. A couple of questions coming in. Is it possible to set an expiry for a payment link?
It is not. No, payment links are by design intended to be long-lived. If you want to expire like a payment UI like that, then checkout is the option because you can kind of determine an expiry time for
that. Exactly. And another question coming from Ivan: is it possible with the donations to only set the lower price, right? No upper limit to what you want to pay?
It is, yeah. So if we revert to the API here, yeah, these are all kind of optional parameters. I can set an upper limit, I can set a lower limit, I can set a preset. They're all completely optional. I can kind of quickly show that. We just actually, maybe I was wrong. At least in the UI, I believe that it's different in the API, that you can kind of create a price object that reflects only has a minimum and not a maximum. Let me just see. Yeah, I think that must be kind of like where the dashboard UI is configured, that you have to pass both in this case.
Okay.
But by the API, you can certainly create a price object with just the minimum threshold and not the maximum.
Okay. That would be pretty quick to test. Anyway, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So like we're on our payment link now, and if you didn't already know, but payment links essentially wrap a checkout session. So when you hit the payment link, we create a checkout session for you, which is why the URL like reflects this shape. And the UI looks exactly the same as checkout, right? And that's because they're configured to be kind of highly converting for our merchants. So
hey to Brendan, coming from Canada. How you doing?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for joining, Brendan. Yeah, so the one thing that's different on the custom amount payment links like this is the left-hand side. Normally you'd have the line items of the session, right? And the subtotal and the stuff like that. In this particular case, we've got this change amount button. So I can click that. Now it's configurable within the kind of parameters that I previously set. So if we remember, we set a max of 100, a minimum of £1. Let's go ahead and can change that to 10, change that to 101. No, I can't. Can change that to £1. So yeah, that's really cool. And I think what really resonates with merchants is like the payment link nature of being able to just kind of generate a QR code for this payment link, whack that as a sticker on like wherever. One use case that we've really heard about is like taxi drivers who are shuttling people to the airport and things like that, and they want to be able to quick way to accept tips without cash. They just have a payment link with the custom amount payment link, right? Scan the QR code, check out on your phone.
Yeah.
Really, really seamless flow.
And they actually, Mike Bifulco has found a really nice use case when I think he was traveling, and there was somebody who was like selling these very ornate, beautiful postcards, and the idea was like you could give them, Venmo them a little bit of money or something. And so he put together this really awesome integration where he bought these very cost-effective NFC tags, like these little programmable tags, and basically took a QR code from a payment link and then kind of like wrote it to the tag. So you could basically just take, if you wanted to take a tip and you had this, a tag with you just like hold your phone next to it, opens up the checkout UI, and then you can so I think that's another, awesome. There's also a video of that on our Stripe developers YouTube channel. If you go to our YouTube channel, click on search, put in NFC, and then you'll find a really cool integration, well worth checking out.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers kind of custom amounts, unless there's any other questions in the chat.
No, so far so good. Oh yeah,
we have time
for linking to the NFC tags integration. That's a good one.
Yeah, I think we have time to cover one last thing that I wanted to talk about. Do you think?
Let's do it. Yeah, we've got time. Let's definitely do it.
Excellent. So another kind of awesome feature that's shipped very recently. In fact, it was, I believe, just last week or the week before. Is that with checkout now you can kind of start a free trial for your recurring prices without actually collecting payment details. This was previously possible, or has been possible, with a direct subscriptions integration, but was never possible with checkout until very recently. This is enabled via this parameter, payment method collection if required, which is in the API reference here. It can only be set in subscription mode. Yeah, but what's really interesting is that it will soon work with the pricing table that we've just configured. So if I go back to my pricing table, and what we're going to do is I want to start offering a free trial of my coffee roasting subscription. Not sure how that works. Maybe it's just like a free bag. You get a free month. You get one bag in your free month. Okay, so let's say 30 days. 30 days. We want to offer a free trial across all. 27. Why is that? Oh, it's because that's annoying. I was accidentally scrolling.
Yeah, so literally everything asked a question here. Is Stripe supporting crypto? Oh, sorry, and the yeah, so and CJ already jumped in. Yeah, there is some improvements, and there's a link there in the chat, and we can link that as well from the show notes after the stream is done.
Nice.
Hey,
okay, so
Keto.
we've come back into our pricing table, and now what we're doing is actually configuring a free trial for each of our recurring prices, because we want to kind of increase conversion. We want to kind of get some users trying out our product. So I'm offering a 30-day free trial across all my coffee subscriptions. Nothing different about that. But what's different is that you will soon, in pricing table at least, and you can do this right now in checkout session, but I'm just demoing this in the pricing table, is that you will soon have this option when configuring your pricing table. And is to basically say you can start a trial without providing payment details. So if you look at our preview on the right here, it says 30 days free, then £10 a month. But I'm still required to put in my payment details before I can actually start the trial. If you go ahead and check this box, you'll see that the UI adjusts only now requires an email in order for us to create the customer, create the subscription. So let's go ahead and just kind of save that.
And I presume that kind of just increases again, kind of conversion, and people starting with your service, because it's like, oh, I don't want to give them my credit card if I don't want to like use the service after a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it definitely varies on like business to business. We hear from some merchants that offering a free trial without payment details doesn't necessarily help conversion, but there will be some kind of like instances where it does. And I think being able to offer that anyway will help. Just being able to kind of say this is available now will help some merchants who do want to do that and previously couldn't adopt checkout because of that limitation. But now, because of that's possible, they can perhaps switch from their kind of custom billing integration that they don't want to maintain anymore.
Right.
So we've updated the pricing table, and because, as I said earlier, because of how the web component works, we don't have to do any additional work to for our pricing page to reflect those changes. So we should now be able to start a trial for our Ethiopian light roast on a monthly basis without actually giving any payment details. There we go. So I'll just put in my that's it.
Cool.
The trial has started. So we can check that out in here. Go to subscriptions. See the subscription here. Trials configured at the end.
That's really good.
Yeah, pretty powerful. So as I said, that's coming soon. A pricing table. It's not currently available, but you can use that parameter. The payment method collection parameter can be used with checkout sessions as of today. Well, as of a couple of weeks ago, actually, but you can start using it today if you're not already.
Yeah, thanks so much.
One thing to call out as well, it doesn't just apply for trials, it also applies for like if you create a checkout session and you also pass in a coupon that essentially reduces the initial invoice to zero. In those instances, you can also pass payment method collection if required, and we wouldn't ask for payment details in those instances either.
Okay. Couple last little questions coming in. Are custom amounts compatible with Connect? So can you create a custom amount and then still share, or like charge an application fee and then I suppose share a part of those funds with a connected account? Good question, actually.
It's a great question, and yeah, that is supported. So you'll see. Let's go back here. This is probably not going to work on my. Let me see. Can we quickly enable Connect? Yeah. So basically, what will happen is, hang on, let me go. All right. So I've enabled Connect, I believe, on my test account. Let's just check. This definitely does work, but you will only see the UI if you've got a Connect enabled. So I should now see the UI. It's why we didn't initially. Customers choose what to pay. Connect. If you go to the next screen, yeah, so this is where you can split the payment with a connected account. Obviously, I don't have any connected accounts, but I'm the platform in this instance. And this is like a destination charge, right? So I can say I want to keep £1 of everything on here. And what will happen is, you're probably asking, well, what happens if the payment of the custom amount is less than the fee? That would be capped. The payment in that instance would all go to the fee, right? The same applies to if I put in, say, £10 for a fee, but the actual payment was only £9, then my fee would be capped at £9 as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we that's a bit of a pain point at the moment with, particularly with one-time payments and custom amounts, where you can't set a percentage-based application fee. It's got to be a fixed amount for one-time payments like this. So that's kind of something that we're kind of aware of and would love to kind of resolve in the near future.
Cool. One last question, I think. I think this is probably more something, if you're asking about different types of bank debits in different regions, I would suggest reaching out to support with that question, and they'll be able to like field your question about, you know, when certain payment methods are coming up in certain countries. Otherwise, yeah, we're running out of time, so I would say I'll just throw up Jonathan's Twitter handle again. If you want to follow him on Twitter, I highly recommend doing so. You're going to get a lot of cool integrations on Tiny Demos. Actually, I'll throw up this URL again as well. So that's where we build and host a lot of really cool little integrations which demonstrate things like pricing table, the identity modal written by CJ, and a bunch of stuff, payment element by Paul Ashes. So yeah, definitely go and check those out and experiment with them and let us know how you find them. Otherwise, you can jump into our Discord. You can go to Stripe.com, go developer chat, and that will drop you straight in there. And we're Stripe Dev on Twitter as well. So yeah, you can follow us and ask questions there too. Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan, for your time. And yeah, I guess we'll be back here at the rate that checkout and payment links are shipping. I think we're going to be back in a few weeks, and
I'll see you next week.
We'll have a lot of new features. All right. Thanks everybody for joining. Take care.
It's been a blast. Thanks for having me.
Take care.